Hey YouTube, how's it going? This is Nas here for the 4th episode of Duelist Almanac here for card theory and evaluation. So I got these bad boys in the mail today. The King of the Thunder and of the Lightning, Thunder King Ryo. It's awesome. Because of that, I've adjusted my deck to be more of a Billy Break control style deck with the 3 Tengu with Gravekeeper Spies because I'm too poor for. Well, I think everyone's too poor. Or at least not dedicated enough, I guess, for tour guides. So I got my Ryos in. I also got a Titanial. I love this card. It's quite a work of art. And that's not just because it's a girl on the card, you know? I'm not that creepy. So let's talk about card evaluation and a few things. No card is objectively the best card in the game. No card is worth another card, except if you're comparing them, okay? No card is objectively better. However, cards are subjectively better than another, and they are better in comparison to one another. For example, Enemy Controller versus Creature Swap. Now, if I have an option, I run the Enemy Controller, and let me tell you why. First off, Enemy Controller, it's a quick play. Also, it has 2 effects. You can change the battle position of a face-up monster your opponent controls, so this can save you if you don't have any monsters that you've been able to play or in your hand. And you can also tribute a monster, select a face-up monster your opponent controls, take control of it during the end phase. Great for a deck that generates a lot of tokens or has a lot of monsters that are just tough to cut down, like GK Spy and Spirit Reaper. On the other hand, Creature Swap, normal spell, so you can only play it during your turn. Unlike Enemy Controller, you can play it anytime from your hand, or it can be set as a trap. Each player selects one monster they control and switches control of these monsters with each other. Those monsters cannot change their battle positions for the rest of the turn. That last part isn't that big of a deal, because whatever you're using the creature swap with usually has low attack, and you'll usually put it in attack position, because the idea is you grab their monster, then attack the monster you just swapped off. The problem with creature swap is it gives your opponent a choice if they have multiple monsters on the field. A lot of decks nowadays swarm, so they're probably going to give you the worst monster. The other problem is you are giving your opponent a resource. You are giving your opponent a monster. So you're using 2 cards to get rid of one, essentially. You're using the creature swap and whatever you swap off for one of your opponent's monsters. So you're burning 2 cards. The problem, well, this may be useful it is useful. I run it in my Machina Gadget build because I can always play a gadget, search for a gadget, use creature swap. I can always plus off of that. You can also use it in Pyramid Turtle oriented zombie decks, which is pretty much the only semi-competitive zombie deck. They're not topping anytime soon, unless they make Mizuki it too. But I digress. You'd use it with Pyramid Turtle because creature swap, grab their guy, have Pyramid Turtle in attack position. You attack their Pyramid Turtle, as it may be. You still have their monster, and you plus off of the Pyramid Turtle. So you're plussing off of this play. But it depends what deck you're running. So I see Enemy Controller as a lot better than Creature Swap because it doesn't matter necessarily what deck you're running with Econ. There are a lot of, well, that's not exactly true because you do need some monster or whatever that you're willing to tribute. But you can use Econ to just park their guy in defense mode and save yourself. So, like I said, it's kind of complex. So, Mystic Tomato. Mystic Tomato is a battle searcher, okay? Your opponent must attack into him for you to get its search effect, okay? You can't tribute it, you can't sync with it, you can't exceed in it with it to get the search effect. That's a problem. So that's why I don't use it. Yeah, it's a plan, and yeah, I can remove it to have Spore come back at level 5, but why would I want to do that? Most of my monsters in my deck right now are level 4. So I could go 9, but no 9 except for Argenix, or Locomotion Argenix, allows me to use only 2 monsters for a level 9 sync. So it just doesn't add up. Also, you have to search for a dark monster with 1500 or less, and it has to be into attack position. The one thing you'd search for would be like Spirit Reaper or something, or Gravekeeper Spy, but that would only work if they were in defense mode, really. Because if Spirit Reaper's in attack mode, your opponent can still attack over it and deal you damage. So I don't like the tomato that much. Plus, it's tomato. I never really liked vegetables. Just kidding. Alright, Reinforcement of the Army. Now, I'm comparing this to Allure of Darkness on my deck. Let me try to find it real quickly. I do like Reinforcement of the Army. It's great in a warrior deck, or e-hero deck. It's great in a warrior deck itself, if you're running Toolbox Warriors. And it's great if you're using Junk Synchron or whatever. Or a warrior-based tuner build. The problem is, it telegraphs, which is a lot like Gold Sark. Now I'll show you why I'm running Allure of Darkness over all of these, okay? Even though Allure of Darkness does cost the removal of a card. But hey, you have to give up something for something. You can't just give up nothing for something, basically. Also, I love the Art of Allure. It looks awesome. It's just like, dark. I don't know. So, Allure of Darkness, remove a draw 2 cards, then remove from play 1 dark from your hand. If you don't have any darks, you have to discard, send all cards in your hand to the graveyard. So, not only would you only use this if you have a dark in hand, unless you feel like gambling, also, you draw 2 first. So you could draw it into a dark that you wouldn't mind removing. And plus, your opponent doesn't get to see it. It's very similar to Graceful Charity. Except Graceful Charity is like draw 3, discard 2. And this is a little similar. Draw 2, remove 1, but it has to be dark. So obviously, as long as your deck is based around darks, this card isn't really a problem. Rhoda, pretty good. It's an immediate 1-for-1. I play Reinforcement of the Army, immediately search. Only problem is it has to be level 4 or lower, so I can't search for Blackluster Soldier or something of that nature. Or any of... Well, there aren't any real big elemental heroes that are over... Well, I guess you could search for Necroshade, but I digress. Basically, you play Rhoda, get whatever, set up the plays. The problem is you can telegraph with this. I have, just an example, I have Junk Synchron in my hand. I play Rhoda. Instead of searching for another Junk Synchron, I search for a Doppel Warrior. If my opponent's smart, he's going to know that, well, he's searching for a Doppel Warrior. That means he probably has the Junk Synchron in hand. If he didn't have the Junk Synchron, he'd immediately go for it. So it can tell your opponent a little too much if they're smart. And then, so I probably run I do run Allure of Darkness. I would run on Reinforcement of the Army if it was necessary by running 3 Doppel and 3 Junk. Usually I can get them when I need them. Gold Sark now. This is like the lowest I'd rank them out of these searcher cards. Select and remove from play 1 card in your deck. During your second standby phase after this card's activation, add the removed card to your hand. Now see, this card is actually great in a Dino Rabbit deck, or not necessarily Dino Rabbit deck, but a Rescue Rabbit-oriented deck. You play Gold Sark, remove something, then play Rescue Rabbit, then use its effect, get 2 level 3 monsters, then go into Leviair, remove a material, immediately add that thing that's been removed from play to hand. The problem is, this adds to your hand. If you have Thunder King out, you can't use this. You also can't use this. Thunder King... You draw with Allure, so Thunder King's effect isn't affected, I guess. It's not restricted by Thunder King's effect. Easy for me to say. The other problem is your opponent sees what you're sarking. It goes into the remove from play position or area of the field. So, and they also have 2 turns usually to find a solution to the thing that you just gave up. That being said, it's good to get limited plant pieces or something big that you need for a big push. So all in all, I definitely go with the Allure. Some other things real quickly. Titanial. I don't really have a space for it right now. I would run it though. The problem is you can't sync with her. She's big, yeah. Probably, definitely, if Dandy gets hit, this is going to be the go-to thing. You go from Lone Fire into Titanial instead of Lone Fire into Spore. But it's all situational. But she's not going to see any play from me, well, unless I can fit something with the with that more radical Synchro build that I showed you a few days ago. But she's nice, she's big, I like it. 28 attack, gets over a non-affected Grapha. And yeah, I'm a little obsessed with Dark World, I guess. They're the only decks that consistently beat me, so I got to work on that. Now, I'll show you 2 tuners that nobody really uses nowadays, or at least competitively that I see topping. one Gale, and one Plague Spreader. Now, Plague Spreader is phenomenal in a zombie deck. You can always get him back. He never stays dead. He's great. The problem is if you're using him in any other vanilla deck, his effect triggers at the cost of your hand. Now, with zombies, it's not that big of a deal, because you can always plus him out of the graveyard and reanimate him with like a Mizuki or Zombie Master or Book of Life. If you're just splashing him in, yeah, he's revivable with Debris Dragon or Junk Synchron, but more often than not, you can't really use its effect, or there's something else you'd like to use. So instead you use its own recursion effect, which costs a card from your hand. I don't see that as being really effective unless you like draw into 2 Tengus, for example. And Gale, 13 attack, 1300 attack. You play it, you have something. The problem is it's not good against big guys. You can't really use Gale as a counter as you used to be, because Grapha is 27 attack, unaffected by gates. So then he becomes 1350. Still not big enough for Gale to stomp over. So not that effective. Something else I'd like to talk about is the idea between consistency and power. Okay, Reborn Tengu, very consistent card, unless you like draw into 2. He's also pretty powerful, 27 attack. You can equip it with Horn of the Phantom Beast if you're running that. Great card, everybody runs it. Dark-Armed Dragon, very powerful. 28 attack, it's a special summon, but not consistent. You have to have exactly 3 darks. So unless you're able to finagle with your graveyard, or unless you're able to use a lot of darks in your deck, for example, then you don't really want to use him. But of course, if you play him and he goes through and he starts destroying things, and your opponent doesn't like bottomless him or something, even though you do get 1 destruction because of priority, he's definitely a game changer and a game winner. I like him, but he's not usable in every deck. He's not for everybody. So that's what you have to do. It's a toss-up between consistency and power. Yes, the Egyptian gods are cards, since they've all been released, or at least in the OCG, as playable cards. They are extremely powerful. The problem is, it's very difficult to get 3 monsters, unless you're, and then, normal, or tribute them, normal summon them. It's very difficult to get 3 monsters out and have them stay there for you to normal summon. Sure, certain decks can do it. I know when I use, or if I get a Slifer, and I convert my Machina gadgets to get just offering gadgets, I'll be able to get out Slifer every time I draw them, pretty much. But it's conditional, I'm going to need the ultimate offering out. So it's a trade-off. In my opinion, and in my experience, I've dueled, probably constantly for the past 2 years. At least, if I had to average everything out, 3 duels a day at college, or 3 games a day, or three matches a day. There's a lot of testing that goes into this. Consistency wins matches, while power might win games, or might win some of the time. But of course, if you have something super duper powerful out, like, you'll always remember that you used it. So there might be some confirmation bias. So in summary, no card is objectively better than another, just subjectively. So you have to compare them, comparatively better. No card is the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh!, for example. You can make an argument why it's better in relation to other things, but no card can possibly ever be better than another, just objectively. Subjectively, definitely. Another thing, evaluation comes between, really up to what your deck uses. I know Plague Spreader is phenomenal in a zombie deck. Blackwing, Gale the Whirlwind, not bad in a Blackwing deck, of course. And then you also have to look at things in the future. Look at sets, things like, say you're playing, and, you really wish, you had something that would help you do something. Like, for example, every time I get deck devied, I'm like, I wish I had something more than, 19 or more than 1500 attack. Well, thanks to where's my Thunder Kings? Thanks to the captains of the Lightning and the Thunder, I now do. And you can look to other sets. Like, for example, if Thunder King Ryo wasn't out right now, but it was coming out in Order of Chaos, I'd be like, wow, I'd definitely get that. So it's all important. It all has to deal with taking mental notes about things and being a smart duelist. And knowing what your opponent may or may not do when it comes to things like searchers, for example. I guess I've talked for long enough. If you want to see the deck list for the Billy Break style control deck, PM me or message me on Facebook if you have my Facebook. I'd be glad to share it with you. And that's it for episode 4 of Duelist Almanac, Card Theory and Evaluation. I'll see you tomorrow for episode 5.